Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. Serena Hale stood under the chandelier, as if the light itself belonged to her. The ballroom in downtown Boston glowed with golden glass. Every table draped in white linen, every guest dressed in silk and sharp suits. Waiters moved like a quiet tide, carrying trays of champagne and murmuring, "Happy birthday, Mrs. Hale," as they passed. At the edge of the stage, Desmond Hale watched his wife through the soft haze of the lights. His hands were clasped behind his back, shoulders squared in a tailored navy suit that had felt tighter around his chest with every minute that passed. He had spent 3 weeks planning this night. Every rose, every bottle of wine, every plate of food had been paid for with the last of his liquid savings. Serena did not know that part. She only knew that the ballroom at the Grand Monarch Hotel was full. The photographer she had personally hired was capturing her best angles, and the guests who mattered most were watching. The master of ceremonies tapped the microphone. The feedback snapped the room into quiet attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," he boomed, "a moment for the man who made this entire evening possible, Serena's husband, Mr. Desmond Hale." Polite applause rose from the tables. Desmond buttoned his jacket, stepped forward, and accepted the microphone. His voice came out steady and warm, a familiar tone that had calmed boardrooms and soothed investors for years. "To my wife, Serena," he said, looking toward her, "the best decision I ever made. No matter what life has thrown at us, I have never stopped believing that you are the reason I wake up every day ready to fight again." There was another round of applause. Serena lifted her glass and gave him a small, practiced smile. The kind of smile that looked perfect in photographs and felt hollow when you were close enough to see her eyes. Desmond walked toward her, carrying a bouquet of white tulips, the flowers she had once told him she loved because they looked like quiet luxury. He stopped in front of her, close enough to smell her perfume, and held the bouquet out. "Happy birthday," Desmond said quietly, leaning in to kiss her cheek. Serena stepped back. The movement was small, but the effect was enormous. The nearest guests noticed first. Then the tables around them fell silent, watching the distance she had just placed between herself and her husband. Her voice rang out, clear, sharp, and merciless. "You are not worthy to touch me." The microphone was still live. Her words bounced off the crystal chandeliers and crashed down over the ballroom. The jazz band cut off mid-note. The clink of silverware died in midair. Conversations strangled themselves and disappeared. Desmond blinked once, as if he had not heard her correctly. "What?" Serena did not soften. Her chin lifted slightly, and there was an icy calm in her eyes. "Your kiss makes me sick." A wave of gasps rolled through the crowd. A woman at the back covered her mouth. A man near the bar muttered something under his breath and fell quiet when his wife elbowed him sharply. The atmosphere tightened like a rope being pulled from both ends. Serena's lips curved into something that was almost a smile. "You think just because you work yourself to exhaustion with your little construction job and beg your friend to help organize this night, it changes who you are?" she said. "It does not. You are broke, Desmond. Pathetic. I deserve a better life." Desmond stood still, the bouquet of tulips hanging between them. He did not look at the guests. He looked only at her. Serena turned slightly to face the room, her voice rising with theatrical ease. "And since everyone is already watching," she said, "let us be honest about what better looks like." Her gaze swept over the tables as if she were casting a role, searching for a single face. Then she smiled wider, a bright, cruel crescent under the lights. "Jared, baby," Serena called. "Come up here." A tall man in a midnight suit pushed back his chair from a table near the front. Jared King stood easily, his designer watch catching the chandelier light with every step he took toward the stage. The whispers began before he reached her. "Is that the investor from New York?" someone murmured. "I thought he was just a guest." Another voice hissed, "That is Serena's husband's contact, is he not?" No one spoke loud enough to be heard over the pounding silence. Jared joined Serena on the small golden platform, as if he had rehearsed it 100 times. His hand slipped around her waist, pulling her gently to him. It looked natural, comfortable, long established. It felt like a slap. Serena tilted her head toward Desmond, her expression almost serene. "This man," she said, "this is who is worthy to touch me, not someone drowning in debt and pretending to be a husband." Desmond's grip tightened around the stems of the tulips until they bowed beneath his fingers. He looked at Jared's arm around his wife, at Serena's triumphant smile, at the faces turned toward him waiting for an explosion, a plea, a breakdown. None came. Desmond laid the bouquet carefully on the table beside the towering cake, as if he were placing something delicate into a display case. Then he straightened his jacket, met Serena's eyes, and spoke in a voice that carried just as clearly as hers had. "You are right," he said. "You are not worthy to be my wife." He turned away from her, stepped down from the stage, and walked through the hushed crowd. His polished shoes clicked against the marble floor in slow, measured beats. No one reached out to stop him. No one knew what to say. The glass doors of the ballroom sighed, shut behind him. Cold night air wrapped around his face, sharp and clean after the suffocating perfume of the party. Through the tall windows, he could still see the flicker of lights and the movement of bodies. Someone started the music again inside. Laughter rose nervously, then louder as guests tried to cover the crack in the illusion with small talk and refilled glasses. From where Desmond stood at the curb, it sounded distant, muffled, like a radio in another room. He walked to his car, unlocked it, and sat behind the wheel. The white tulips stared back at him from the passenger's seat, petals bruised where his fingers had pressed too hard. His reflection in the windshield looked like a stranger in a suit. He closed his eyes for a moment, and, uninvited, another memory forced its way in, 3 months earlier, in a house that did not echo when they spoke. 3 months before the birthday party, Desmond had driven home from a board meeting at Hale Technologies with a rare feeling of lightness in his chest. The company had just closed an acquisition that would secure its research division for years. He had imagined Serena's face when he told her, imagined taking her to lunch at her favorite restaurant near the harbor and watching her eyes light up at the news. He parked the Bentley in the circular driveway and stepped out, balancing a bouquet of soft pink peonies in one hand and a sleek white bag from her favorite boutique in the other. The front door was slightly ajar. Champagne drifted through the air before he even crossed the threshold. He heard the low, familiar hum of his wife's voice and another woman's laughter. Desmond smiled to himself, thinking they were celebrating something, and walked more quietly. Down the hall, he stopped just before the archway that opened into the living room. Serena's best friend, Naomi Ellis, sat curled on the couch in designer loungewear, a flute of champagne in hand. Serena lounged opposite her, barefoot, her silk robe falling open just enough to show the glitter on her legs. "You are lucky, Serena," Naomi said. "Honestly, any woman would be grateful to have a man like Desmond. He is one of the rare good ones left." Serena laughed. It was not the warm, soft laugh she used in public. It was lighter, sharper, edged with something he could not name. "Lucky," she repeated. "I'm not lucky, Naomi. I am strategic." Desmond froze with one foot still lifted. The word hung in the air like a small, bright blade. "What is that supposed to mean?" Naomi asked, half amused, half curious. Serena swirled the champagne in her glass. "Let's be honest," she said. "I am only with him for the money. You really think I would be living in this kind of house if he were poor?" Naomi's smile faltered. "You do not mean that." "I absolutely do." Serena set the glass down with a delicate click. "If he ever lost it all, I would be gone before breakfast. I did not marry him to start from the bottom. I married him because he had already made it." The words slid into Desmond the way her birthday speech would later drive them deeper. The flowers in his hand suddenly felt heavy. The shopping bag's handle cut into his palm. Naomi shifted awkwardly. "Serena, that is cold." "It is honest," Serena replied. "And that is why I will always land on my feet. Men like Desmond are a cushion. Men like Jared are a launch pad." Desmond stepped back, one slow inch at a time, careful not to make the floorboard creak. He placed the peonies and the boutique bag on the narrow console table in the hallway, where Serena would see them later and never know they had arrived early. He did not breathe again until the front door closed softly behind him. 2 days later, Desmond sat across from his oldest friend in a quiet bar in the Back Bay. Reggie Holt poured amber whiskey into 2 short glasses and waited without speaking while Desmond told the truth he could not unknow. "So she said just like that?" Reggie asked when the story was done. "If he loses everything, she walks?" "Word for word," Desmond answered. His voice had none of the outrage Reggie expected. It was flat, controlled, like a man reviewing a disappointing quarterly report. She was not even angry. It was just policy. Reggie leaned back, the leather of the booth creaking softly. "Then you know where you stand." "Do I?" Desmond traced the rim of his glass with one finger. "All I know is that every moment since then, I have wondered if any of it was ever real." "You were thinking about confronting her," Reggie said. Desmond shook his head. "I am thinking about testing her." Reggie set his glass down. "Go on. If I ask her outright, she will deny it. She will cry. She will twist things. She will say I'm misunderstood," Desmond said. "But if the money disappears, if the house goes, if the cars go, then she cannot fake her choice." Reggie studied him. "You're talking about making it look like you lost everything." "Not look like," Desmond replied. "As far as she and the rest of the world can see, I will lose everything. But I will not actually do it unless I can protect the company and the people who depend on it. I'm not destroying my life to test my wife." "So you hide the assets," Reggie said slowly. "You move the money. You shift the ownership of the properties. You make it look like liquidation while you hold everything somewhere she cannot see." Desmond nodded once. "Exactly. You know the law. You know who we can trust. If we do this, we have to do it clean. No fraud, no lies to the government, no damage to the firm. Just enough smoke to see where her loyalty stands." Reggie was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I can set up temporary holding companies and restructure the ownership. On paper, you can look like a man in crisis. In reality, you will be safer than before." "And if she stays?" Desmond asked. The question was barely louder than a breath. "Then you apologize inside your own heart, put the money back where it belongs, and never tell her," Reggie said. "You build again. You forget this conversation." "And if she fails?" Desmond asked. Reggie did not look away. "Then she will be free," he said. "And so will you." They began that week. Behind the polished glass of Hale Technologies headquarters, quiet meetings took place in conference rooms with no windows. Wire transfers moved funds from familiar accounts into anonymous entities. Legal filings recorded asset sales and emergency restructurings. The company's liquid reserves were routed through temporary holding companies registered under names Serena had never heard. On the surface, headlines began to appear. Hale Technologies facing aggressive restructuring. Analysts questioned future of once stable firm. The business channels loved the scent of potential scandal. One morning over breakfast at the long marble island in their kitchen, Serena scrolled through an article on her tablet and frowned. "Is this true?" she asked. "Are you really in trouble?" Desmond took a bite of toast and shrugged, his expression neutral. "It is bad," he said. "We may have to sell almost everything, but I will figure something out." Serena stared at the lines of text on the screen, then at him. Her eyes softened at the edges, and she reached across to squeeze his hand. "We'll be fine," she said. "I do not care about money. I care about you." For a moment, he almost believed her. Almost. Within days, their oceanside villa went under auction. The luxury cars that had once lined their driveway disappeared one by one. Paintings and sculptures vanished from walls, shipped in quiet crates to buyers who did not exist beyond the paper trail Reggie had built. What Serena never saw was that each buyer was a shell company with Desmond's signature hidden several steps removed. The life she thought was being dismantled was, in truth, being picked up and stored somewhere she could not follow. When they moved into the smaller Oak Ridge house at the edge of the city, paint peeling and floorboards protesting underfoot, Desmond told her it belonged to Reggie, who was doing them a favor until things settled. Serena had stood in the doorway with a box in her arms and a faint line between her brows. "It is temporary," she said, glancing around. "We can handle temporary." That night, she cooked dinner in a kitchen with humming fluorescent lights instead of under-cabinet LEDs. She lit a single candle and laughed about learning to live like regular people. She kissed him on the cheek and told him they would bounce back. For months afterward, she played the part of the loyal wife so convincingly that Desmond's certainty began to erode. She woke up early to iron his shirts for the construction site job he took on the edge of town to make the story believable. She pressed packed lunches into his hands and kissed him at the door. Sometimes she would sit beside him on the sagging sofa, scrolling through old photos of their former life. A gala here, a charity ball there, their villa's balcony at sunset. "We will get it back," Serena would whisper, leaning her head on his shoulder. "You are too smart to stay down." He watched her face in those moments, trying to read what sat behind her eyes. Did she see him, or only the reflection of what he used to buy for her? One night, sitting at the small kitchen table in the Oak Ridge house, Desmond told Reggie over speakerphone, "I will make my decision after her birthday. If she is still here, still this steady, maybe I was wrong." "Make sure you're not just testing yourself," Reggie said. "Do not look for a reason to forgive what she already told you." 3 months later, in the glittering ballroom at the Grand Monarch Hotel, Serena answered the question for him in front of 200 witnesses. Back in the present, Desmond opened his eyes in the parked car outside the hotel. The echoes of Serena's public humiliation and the memory of her earlier confession braided together into something solid and cold. He drove home with the radio off, the city lights sliding in silent streaks across the windshield. The Oak Ridge house looked even smaller that night, a dark square against the street. He went inside, loosened his tie, and stood in the middle of the quiet living room. Then he picked up his phone and called Reggie. "It is done," Desmond said when his friend answered. "She chose." "Then we finish our side," Reggie replied. "The papers are almost ready." The next morning, Desmond shaved, brewed his coffee, and dressed not in the worn work clothes he wore to the construction site, but in a charcoal suit that fit his shoulders like memory. He met Reggie outside a glass tower downtown, the law firm that served men too wealthy to ever raise their voices in public. The elevator opened onto polished marble and shelves of leather-bound volumes. A receptionist with a practiced smile said, "Mr. Holt and Mr. Hale, Attorney Bennett will see you now." Inside the office, Attorney Bennett rose to shake their hands. "I understand you are seeking a dissolution," he said. "Have a seat." "I want it simple," Desmond replied. "No public fight, no media, no delays. Just the cleanest cut the court allows." The attorney slid a notepad toward him. "Understood," he said. "You will file today. The documents will be ready for both signatures within a week." Desmond's pen did not tremble as he authorized the petition. When he left, the envelope in his hand felt lighter than the vows he had taken years earlier. A week later, after a call from Attorney Bennett, Desmond walked back into the quiet office, reviewed the pages, and signed the final version of the divorce petition. Bennett sealed a second copy in a fresh envelope and handed it across the desk. "Give this to your wife," Bennett said. "When she has signed, bring it back. The court will do the rest." That evening, the small house smelled faintly of laundry detergent and reheated sauce. Serena sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Desmond placed the envelope on the coffee table between them. "What is that?" she asked without looking up. "Divorce papers," Desmond said. Serena's eyes flicked down, then back up, then back down again. A slow smile tugged at one corner of her mouth. "So this is it," she said softly. "This is how the story ends." "This is how it ends," he replied. She tore the seal open, skimmed the lines with barely a pause, and laughed once under her breath. "Finally," Serena said, searching for the last page. "Freedom looks good on me." She clicked the pen he had laid beside the envelope and signed her name with a bold flourish. The sound of the ballpoint scraping paper was small but final. Desmond folded the documents, slid them back into the envelope, and picked up his keys. She waved a hand dismissively, already turning back to her phone. "You will see," she said. "In a year you will thank me." "I am sure I will," he answered. A month later, the family court smelled of perfume, paper, and impatience. Couples sat on benches, waiting for their names to be called. When the clerk announced Desmond Hale and Serena Hale, they rose together for the last time. The judge skimmed the file, eyes moving with the detached efficiency of someone who had seen 1,000 endings. "Both parties have signed and agreed to the terms?" he asked. "Yes, Your Honor," Attorney Bennett replied. The judge made a small notation, signed, and handed the decree to the clerk. "Divorce granted," he said. "The marriage is hereby dissolved." The gavel struck once. Serena exhaled with visible relief, a smile curling across her face. Finally, out of this misery, she muttered under her breath. Desmond did not respond. Outside, sunlight washed the courthouse steps. A sleek black sedan idled by the curb, window lowered, Jared King visible behind the wheel. Serena adjusted her sunglasses, lifted her chin, and walked toward it without looking back. The door closed behind her. The car glided into traffic and disappeared. Desmond unfolded the decree, glanced at the official stamp, then folded it again and slipped it into his jacket. His expression remained calm. 2 weeks later, the morning news rattled every trading floor in Boston. Hale Technologies rebounds with massive $500 million investment. The headline scrolled beneath the faces of excited anchors. Analysts called it astonishing, unlikely, a corporate resurrection. In a quiet office high above the streets, Desmond sat with a cup of coffee cooling beside him and read the same headline on his tablet. The mysterious investor behind the shell companies that had just injected new capital into the firm was him. He had repurchased every asset, restructured every debt, and reclaimed every piece of the empire he had pretended to lose. When he folded the tablet case shut, he whispered to himself, "Now we begin." Across the city, in a penthouse with glass walls and a sweeping view, Serena lounged in a silk robe, while Jared poured champagne into 2 tall glasses. The same headline moved along the bottom of their television. Serena frowned. "Who would throw that kind of money into a company that looked dead?" she asked. Jared smirked and slipped an arm around her waist. "Smart people who know where the real value is," he said. "Let the man rise again. We have our own view." Serena relaxed against him. "Anything looks better when you are rich," she said, clinking her glass against his. Jared kissed her shoulder. "And when you are with a man who can keep you there." Serena laughed, the sound full and careless. "Exactly." By evening, the light in the penthouse softened to gold. Music drifted low from unseen speakers. Serena still wore her robe, bare feet against the cold marble floor. Jared pulled her into his lap on the cream sofa and whispered promises about trips, properties, and deals that would keep them far above the world below. The elevator chimed. Jared frowned. "I told security no visitors," he said. Serena adjusted her robe, annoyed. The elevator door slid open before he could move. A woman stepped out, tall and composed in a beige coat that fell past her knees. Beside her stood a small boy, no more than 2, clutching a toy truck. For a second, the room held its breath. The woman looked around with calm, assessing eyes. "I see you did not waste any time redecorating, Jared," she said. Jared's face drained of color. "Danica," he stammered, "what are you doing here?" She stepped further inside, the boy keeping a tight grip on her hand. "Our son missed his father," Danica said, "so we decided to come home." Serena shot to her feet, her robe slipping slightly off one shoulder. "Wait," she said, looking between them. "This is your wife? Are you married?" Danica turned her attention to Serena with a small, polite smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Legally, yes," she said, "and this is my home, so you will need to leave." Serena gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "You cannot be serious," she said, turning to Jared. "Tell her." Jared took a step toward Danica. "It is not what it looks like," he began. "I was going to call, Danica's voice sliced through his excuse. "You are going to do nothing," she said. "You have already done enough. I own this penthouse. I own the majority of the company you pretend to run, and I am done sharing space with your latest project." She glanced at the 2 uniformed security guards who had appeared in the doorway. "Kindly escort this woman out," Danica said. Serena's outrage flared. "You cannot just throw me out," she said. "Jared, say something. Tell them I live here." Jared opened his mouth, but Danica's look shut it again. "Not another word," she said to him. "You will hear from my attorney." One guard lifted Serena's small purse from the table. The other gestured toward the elevator with professional detachment. The boy tugged on Danica's sleeve. "Mommy, who is that lady?" he asked. Danica knelt to smooth his hair. "No one we will ever see again," she said softly. The elevator doors closed on Serena's reflection, eyes wide, face pale, lips parted around words that would not come. When she stepped out onto the sidewalk moments later, the night wind hit her like a slap. The tower she had just claimed as hers rose above her head, its upper windows glowing warm and unreachable. Serena wrapped her arms around herself, clutching her purse, and tried to hail a taxi. Cars passed. None stopped. Eventually one pulled over. She slid into the back seat and gave Harper's address in a voice that barely carried to the front. Naomi opened her apartment door in a faded college t-shirt, her hair pulled into a scarf. "Serena," she said, eyes wide. "What happened?" Serena stood on the threshold, robe still tied tight, mascara smudged. "Can I stay here tonight?" she whispered. Naomi stepped aside at once. "Of course. Come in." The apartment was small and warm, the opposite of every space Serena had boasted about for years. She sank onto the couch and pulled a throw blanket around her shoulders. She did not cry. She stared at the wall until the sky beyond the blinds grew pale. A week passed slowly. Serena moved less, talked less, and rarely looked at her phone. Naomi left coffee on the counter every morning before heading to work, guilt and concern battling in her eyes, but she did not press for details. By Friday, the money Serena had tucked away for emergencies was gone. She sat at the tiny kitchen table, pushing food around her plate, when Naomi cleared her throat. "You should probably find something for now," Naomi said gently. "Just until you figure out your next move." Serena swallowed. "I will," she said. The next morning, she walked to a diner 3 blocks away, the kind of place she had driven past for years without ever seeing. The manager, a tired man with kind eyes, studied her resume and then her face. "You ever worked in a place like this?" he asked. "No," Serena admitted, "but I can learn fast." He seemed to see the desperation under her lipstick. He slid an apron across the counter. "Start Monday," he said. 8 in the morning. The first day nearly broke her. The uniform smelled like detergent and fryer oil. The tile floor ached through her shoes by noon. She memorized table numbers, carried heavy trays, and smiled on command. "More coffee, please," a man at the counter said. "Of course," Serena answered, forcing the word through a throat that wanted to close. She topped off mugs, wiped crumbs, and pretended not to notice when a group of office workers at table 4 glanced at the television and then at her. On the screen above the counter, footage of Desmond played on mute, him in a dark suit, shaking hands with a senator at the opening of a gleaming new research center. The headline read, "Hale Technologies expands, the return of a visionary." Serena stared at the screen too long. The manager's voice snapped her back. "Table 4 is waiting," he said. "Move, Serena." "Yes," she murmured, grabbing the pot again. Right away. Days turned into weeks. Every morning, she wiped tables while talk radio hosts discussed Hale Technologies' roaring comeback and Desmond's disciplined leadership. Every night, she tried to fall asleep on Naomi's couch while her phone lit up with news alerts about his latest deals, awards, and events. Desmond Hale signs major defense contract. Hale Technologies among top innovators of the year. Local philanthropist funds new scholarship program. The world that had once revolved around her last name spun perfectly well without her. Desmond did not call. Desmond did not text. Serena's life had been compacted into an apron, a couch, and a handful of suitcases stacked in Naomi's spare corner. On the 15th morning, she stood in the diner's restroom and looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back had duller hair, smudged makeup, and eyes tired in a way she did not recognize. "I cannot live like this," Serena whispered to her reflection. By noon, she stood outside the glass tower of Hale Technologies, craning her neck to see the top floors. The building was taller than she remembered, or maybe she was simply smaller now. Inside, the lobby gleamed with polished stone. The receptionist looked up from her desk. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "No," Serena said, tightening her grip on her purse. Tell Mr. Hale his ex-wife is here. There was a pause. The receptionist's expression did not show surprise, only a brief calculation. One moment, she said, pressing a button. After a quiet exchange, she nodded toward the elevators. Top floor. They're expecting you. The ride-up felt longer than the years Serena had spent married. When the doors opened, she stepped into a reception area with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the skyline that made her stomach flip. Desmond stood near the glass, his back to her, hands folded behind him. He did not turn until she walked halfway across the room. Desmond, she said, her voice breaking on his name. Please, I just need a moment. He faced her then, fully, his expression calm but unreadable. You have one, he said. Use it well. The words she had rehearsed all night spilled out of her in a rush. I lost everything, Serena said. Jared threw me out. His wife humiliated me. I'm living on a couch, working at a diner. Please, I just want another chance. I know I was wrong. She stepped closer without realizing it. I do not care about money anymore, she added quickly. I do not care about houses or cars. I just want you. You are all I ever. Do not rewrite history, Desmond said softly, cutting across her words. You wanted a lifestyle. You chose it over a person. You have it. It simply does not belong to me. Tears stung her eyes and trailed beneath the makeup she had tried to apply with a steady hand. Please, Serena whispered. I will do anything. I can change. I can be better. Just give me a chance to prove it. Desmond moved slowly around the desk, each step measured, until he stood in front of her. She could smell the subtle cedar in his cologne, the same scent she used to bury her face in when they embraced. You said my touch made you sick, he reminded her, his voice low but clear. Let's keep you healthy. Her knees threatened to give. Desmond, please do not do this in front of them, she said, glancing toward the receptionist beyond the glass door. I am begging you. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Security, he said. We are finished here. 2 guards stepped into the office a moment later. They did not look at her more than they had to. They simply waited for instructions. Serena's voice cracked. I am begging you, she repeated. Please. Desmond's expression did not shift. Begging suits you, he said quietly. Keep practicing. You may need it. The guards took her gently but firmly by the arms. She twisted once, then went limp, sobs breaking out despite her efforts to hold them back. Her cries echoed down the hallway as the door closed. Desmond turned back to the window and looked out over the city that had watched his rise, his fall, and his return. Cars crawled along the streets below, tiny and unbothered. The glass showed his reflection, a man alone, intact, and finally, completely free. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.